Well, at least one of the EVPs has something to fall back on. Because now, apparently, the Rhodes family are reality TV stars. Yeah, that's the way I felt. I watched this show the first time so we could talk about it, Brian. Do you think that any of the Cult of Cornette members out there will be inflamed or incensed or have their feelings hurt or be let down or in any other way negatively impacted if I never watch another episode of this horrible fucking piece of shit show again?
I think they would be upset. Although the ratings were low, I think a lot of people watched it with morbid curiosity, and I will say, although it's somewhat similar to Crisley Knows Best or one of those other garbage shows, I found myself thoroughly entertained by the tone deafness of the Rhodes family. I thought it was extraordinary. I'm so happy this was all on film.
If you don't want to watch this show to make fun of the people involved, is there any other reason why a grown adult with cognitive functioning and all of their senses unimpaired would ever watch this television program?
I don't know what the target audience is, and you would think based on how much they've advertised it, you would have had a good amount of people stay around after AEW Dynamite to see it. And it doesn't appear that was the case. And then they replayed it after that, and that didn't even chart.
Well, and hopefully, the only good thing I can say about this program is maybe nobody will watch it. Because that would be a positive. And now everybody go, oh, now he hates Cody. Well, you're right. You're right, I do. After all this time, he was the one guy. And see, this is Brian. That's why I seldom say good things about people, because it always comes back to bite me in the ass. What did I say about Cody Rhodes from the start? He's a son of the American dream. He's got it in his genes. He's a good worker. He has the most sensible at the start. Now they've obviously added talent, but he was the only one that had sensible pro wrestling matches at the start. Yes, his finishes were somewhat overbooked. And yes, his entrance is a little bit much to stomach, but he was a Rhodes. He could cut promos. He was a fucking wrestler. He could work. That was my initial thought going into the AEW experience of Cody Rhodes. And 2 years later, we have seen a lot of things that we've talked about on the program, but I still had hope for Cody Rhodes. I can't in good conscience want to ever say anything good or have anything positive to say about anybody involved in this television program again. And the reason why is not because they were rotten in the show, they were just boring in the show. The reason is because this whole program exists to further make wrestling look like a bunch of phony bullshit. Because they knew that nobody wants to watch I don't know why anybody watches any reality television. I don't know why anyone would want to be in a reality, quote unquote, reality television program. You try to put fucking video cameras in my house for the afternoon, I will take a bat to your fucking head. Much less all the time. Why anybody would watch one, I have little to any idea, except I enjoyed the Honey Boo Boo thing when the fat mother with the buck teeth took her shoe off and had fucking actual flies buzzing around under her toenails. That was interesting. But I've only seen scant clips and bits of these type of programs that have aired on Twitter or whatever, or commercials. But they know that people don't give a shit about Cody and Brandy's personal life or any of these other fucking boring morons' personal lives, but they want to see behind the scenes of wrestling. So to be reality TV personalities, Cody and Brandy Rhodes have just demonstrated to everyone that their own company is a bunch of phony bullshit. That's the only reason this program's on the air. The people know that fans want to see behind the scenes of wrestling and see all the good guys and bad guys talking to each other. And of course they do. And see people going over their interviews and talking about their angles. And so Cody and Brandy have slipped in on this to try to get people to watch for that reason, but it'll be like that they really care about their fucking personal lives, which I don't, because it doesn't have anything to do with the wrestling business. And it's supposed to be a fucking wrestling show. Not this show, but the show they're on. Within seconds of this thing, Brandy is the first black female executive in wrestling. That may be true, but what's she in charge of? Self-promotion? The chief branding officer. So she approves T-shirts, for fuck's sake. The whole show was, what are you going to do today? Oh, I got a lot to do. I got to talk to people. You're a fucking national television taping. I talked to so many people after every TV taping I've ever done, I couldn't hardly fucking speak afterwards. It's not a big fucking deal. The chief brandy officer. Brandy was actually in the back. They're talking in their executive vice president fucking capacities. She's talking to one of the girl wrestlers, the girl who wears the blue pants. She actually said this to this girl. I have never heard this. I've been in wrestling locker rooms since the middle 1970s. I have never heard this sentence uttered to a wrestler from a member of the office. What do you need so you don't go out and have a panic attack? What? What the fuck? Where have we fucking got here? Where the only time I ever had a panic attack when I went out to do a match was in Tulsa or Houma, Louisiana, when I thought there's a good chance I'm going to get fucking knifed. Otherwise, I've never been panicked to go out and have a fucking wrestling match or do a promo. You're not defying death, except in Tulsa or Houma, Louisiana. You're going to come back, especially for a promo or a match if you do it right, in pretty much the same condition you left. Nobody's holding your family hostage, depending on the outcome of this. So why would you have a panic attack? And then we found out that Brandy and Jane Cargill, the bitter enemies, are good friends. Jane was invited to the baby shower. More on that later. And by the way, in every shot, Brandy is enormous. I can't believe she didn't have quadruplets. There was Tony Khan and Cody talking about the story, that's a quote, of Anthony Ogogo turning on his mentor. His mentor, Cody, that he'd known for all of 3 months and had 3 interactions with on television. And besides that, they're talking about the angle that they did. He's making himself a phony on television. They talk about, goddamn, well, wrestling is entertainment. Fuck you. You know what? Here's the thing. I'm sure that everybody wanted to know how Chris Angel got run over with that fucking steamroller and flattened out and then fucking puffed up back to life. But once they did know, they'd never want to see him do it again because now they know. So when all the magicians get together and do a reality show where they're standing around in the back talking about how they do their tricks, then let me know. Otherwise, fuck these people. There was a segment where Brandy talked about her acid reflux and her nausea, which was followed by talking about her vagina opening and how wide it would be to expunge the baby that she's about to have. Why is this on television? Is this the goddamn medical channel? And those gross me out too. There was a couple of segments where Cody and Brandy were talking about his incredibly personal promo. That's another quote that he was going to do that night, and how he didn't want to tell her because he wanted to get her reaction after it was the fucking promo, the interracial baby promo, where he saved race relations in America and declared war on England. That one that we made fun of at the time, that was the feature event of what he did in this program. And there was Rebel back there. She's a makeup artist. But there's Rebel, Britt Baker's assistant, doing the makeup on Cody. That makes no sense to the viewers. Cody, at one point before he went into this, it was also talking about Darby Allin. I wrote this down, say, Darby's going to lose the title and pass on the belt tonight. Same thing I did for him. Fuck you. I can't imagine that Dusty Rhodes would not have been ashamed of you saying that on television. Because they're so convinced that they're just big TV stars now and nobody believes wrestling anymore. Because of people like you, nobody believes wrestling. And we don't want to insult the people's intelligence. Don't put your fucking untalented wife on television if you don't want to insult people's intelligence. You mean she walked in off the street with her resume and got the job of chief branding officer for a company backed by a billionaire because of her extensive background in branding? So now Cody was rehearsing his promo from notes. He actually had it written down and was reading it on camera, but I don't know what my mind was blown about more, that he was rehearsing and reading his promo off notes on camera, or that he was rehearsing and reading his promo off notes.
I go back to every review of a Cody promo we've ever done where I pointed out it seemed like he was acting. It seemed like he was looking down, almost as if he was holding the notes when he wasn't. It's because he was. The whole Cody workshops his promo thing, that's true. Look at this. This is a fucking guy with no instincts whatsoever. He has to ask everyone what they think about it, and no one has the balls to say, Cody, this fucking sucks. Don't do this. Are you a moron? By the way, your opponent is black. Why would you bring any of this up, you moron? But no one says anything.
Also, if you had gone up to Dusty Rhodes on a Wednesday at promo day at Crockett's office or at any TV taping and said, Dusty, you got any notes on your promo? He would have looked at you like you had a steaming turd hanging out of your mouth. Dusty, have you got your promo memorized? What the fuck's the matter with you?
Jim, what you have to understand is Cody Rhodes doesn't use any of the boring old wrestling tropes that you and your generation use, like doing things on the fly. No. It's all about rehearsal and making sure everything is perfect by the time you get out there.
Making sure everything is emotionless as possible because it's written down and scripted. Anyway, and then Cody also in one of the clips said, well, it's pro wrestling. It's fiction. I wrote, now I hate this show, and now Cody too. Then they were talking about Brandy's doctor appointments, and I had to fast forward some of this stuff. She still, multiple times during the program, she said she still wants to get back in the ring. Wouldn't that be great if I went? She says, wouldn't it be great if I went back and won the women's title on the same program where they've just talked about people giving up the title and dropping it on purpose and passing it around, and it's all fucking phony. But she thinks it would be an inspirational story for her to come back after having a baby at the age of 38 and win the women's title. It would be a fucking horrible story because she shouldn't be the women's champion of anything. As bad as their women's roster is, there are some much better than Brandy, but also, what the fuck? How can it be an inspirational thing when you've just told everybody we just give this thing to people whenever we want to? They have no choice in the matter.
And by the way, I hope they do it. I would love to see the audience reaction to Brandy making a comeback and winning the world championship. Hopefully over Britt Baker. Do it, please, Tony.
So Cody Rhodes then made Brandy a cake for Mother's Day. Is this what other reality TV shows are like? Do they just hang around in the house and make cakes for each other and then walk in and taste them?
I really couldn't tell you.
She liked the cake.
Good.
I'm a big fan of cake. Why is this on TV, is what I wrote with 2 question marks. I fast-forwarded through their romantic baby talk where they were smooching and talking about the baby. Why would it... They talk about how that the women's demographics are lower in AEW than they are in the WWE. Is this how they're going to try to get women to watch? Because certainly not only no adult male over the age of 18, but no male human past 7 wants to see a romantic conversation about babies between 2 people in their kitchen. Do they?
No. And no one wants to see no one wants to see Cody and Brandy discuss any of these things.
Well, Cody got her some pink monogram boxing gloves and then went to the gym and she was punching the dummy. But she couldn't hardly, it was sort of like, there was an independent guy in West Virginia years ago. He wrestled as Super Mario. He owned a pizza place. His name was Mario, I think. And he was about 5 feet tall and about 380 pounds. And his arms would barely reach past his stomach. So when he did his finish was the big splash. But he couldn't really jump. And when he would fall forward, he'd sort of kind of roll on the guy across his belly and stop himself with his hands, and then he'd roll back down. It put me in mind of Super Mario because she's trying to box, but her arms can barely go past her stomach. Then Cody was quoted as saying, not quoted as saying, he said it on camera, wrestling is choreographed, but the risk is real. And then they did a lot of talk about how all this fake stuff that we do really hurts. Well, that's good to know, because now we know that you're doing fake shit and really hurting yourself at the same time. So what kind of fucking moron are all of us? Then Brandy had to talk. She was the one that had to talk to Red Velvet and Jane Cargill because they slapped each other too hard. When they did that angle, or Jane slapped Velvet too hard, and now Velvet is afraid what's going to happen in their match. And not Tony Khan, the booker, not him. He's not the one to sit down with him. Hey, is there an issue? This ain't ballet. Everybody was laying it in, but we don't want any ill feelings. Nobody had any fucking ill intent, did they? If so, then spill it now. Otherwise, hit hard in safe places, go on about your business. No, the chief branding officer had to talk to him, and she didn't want the girls who wrestle each other to hate each other. She's actually telling these opponents that had a match with Shaquille O'Neal involved in it on national television against each other. Well, the last thing we want is for you guys to not like each other if you're going to wrestle. Brian, if only we'd have known all these years we were watching wrestling that the opponents are supposed to be friends with each other because it makes a better match. That's what she said. Fucking douchebag gets involved in our fucking business and thinks she's got the goddamn wherewithal and the right to go on television and just tell everybody it's a bunch of phony bullshit. Then Cody was going over with Ricky Starks what he was going to say when he broke his neck. And then they had a shot of Britt Baker, Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, MJF, and Miro sitting together at the monitor watching all this stuff. And Starks does his promo. And everybody at the monitor enjoys it when he says bad things about people. And the last 15 minutes, Brandy and her family and the baby shower. If I ever watch a baby shower on television again, Brian, please shoot me directly between the eyes. I watched a baby shower on television. You just had a baby. Did you ever want to watch somebody else's baby shower on television?
No, I usually try to find a way to get out of attending mine, because usually the big thing is the dad shows up at the end, and that's the big thing, and all the women go crazy, and I always tried to find a way out of it, but I always got pulled back in.
Well, Cody was there from the start also. Apparently, he was
really?
all over the thing.
What baby shower is that?
Well, he was there talking to a lot of people, and the last 15 minutes was baby shower with the family and Brandy talking about wanting to wrestle again. And people were like, oh, you do? Apparently nobody wants that, even her immediate family. And at the end, there's a bonus. At the very end of the show, Brandy is now creating her own wine, because when you think of Brandy Rhodes, the first thing you think of is getting fucking drunk, apparently. So you don't have to watch these fucking shows, I guess. I don't know. Put it out of your mind.
Maybe that's the first thing Cody thinks of. He thinks of Brandy Rhodes.
But anyway, so Brandy's starting her own wine, and she brings in Jane and Velvet so that they will be friends and have better matches, because, as we mentioned, she said opponents shouldn't dislike each other. And they tried to work some kind of deal where they were still kind of edgy with each other. But then Jane, the heel, by the way, says, well, I just want to get the women's division over. That's what I want to do. No, you fucking idiot. You should want to get yourself over and bury every single other girl in the company. And you should reach over and slap Red Velvet out of her chair like Lawler slapped Kaufman. That might make me interested in the wrestling program. But I will never watch this show again. I'm ashamed of Cody Rhodes for being involved in it, and I hate everyone that had anything to do with this program. Does that cover it?
I think that covers it. I think part of the reason the show did as well as it did, and it did not do well in any sense of the word, was because of the backstage segments.
Yes.
And the AEW stars. No one wants to see Cody and Brandy. AEW had some fans stay around afterwards to see what AEW footage they would see. And by the way, did you notice, give them credit, we kill them all the time, give them credit for intelligence here, Omega and the Bucks nowhere to be found.
Nowhere.
On this thing. And by the way, great decision, guys. You got none of this one on you.
Yeah, not even in a camera shot in the back. Not any peripheral view of them. No, they knew not to be involved in this, and they came away without the stench of grisly death upon them.
I think you saw a lot of the reasons why people have a problem with Cody. And again, a lot of it, and Brandy, and again, a lot of it is reality TV. So there is a fakeness to it, but it's a fakeness dealing with two of the most pretentious people in the history of the wrestling business, who are dullards. And they desperately want to be as interesting as they want you to think they are. And you saw here on this show, two people completely out of touch. And another thing, and again, I know a thing or two about being an executive and being in a corporate environment. Dressing the role and actually being able to perform the role are two different things. Wanting to dress like the executive you imagine you are and actually being a talented executive able to get things done are two very different things. And if you notice, Cody has very little to do with AEW right now. And I'm going to make a prediction right now. Cody and Brandy are going to be the first two from that initial class of upper echelon executives and wrestlers to leave. And I have no doubt in my mind about that. It may happen, I think, sooner rather than later. I shouldn't say that. He still has some time on his contract, but mark my words, Cody and Brandy are going to be the first two people gone, and very few people, outside of maybe Dustin, very few people are going to miss them there. And they really haven't contributed as much as... Look, say what you want about the Bucks and Omega. They're fucking there. And they're on TV, and they're doing what people wanted them to do who were into them. What does Cody do? Cody's all about this and the TV show and wanting to be the face of AEW. No one else wanted that. He wanted that. And I think Tony indulged it for a good while. And now this show is out. And it didn't do any numbers. And I don't think Tony's really going to be indulging Cody and Brandy too much longer.
This is not going to be one of those programs like Seinfeld or whatever that grows the audience over time. You just need to find it. Anybody who found this already doesn't want to look for it anymore. So I have a feeling it's downhill or uphill. It's definitely downhill for this show. Travis may be going uphill, but Rhodes to the Rotten is going downhill. Again, yes, idiots. People these days, unfortunately, they all know that wrestling is a work. But much the same as I know, again, that the magician didn't really do the trick that I saw him do. I got no idea how he did it. What pocket did he pull that thing out of? Where did it come from? Once that you've been shown the diagrams and the instruction booklet to the wrestling business, it's ridiculous. The more that they show what actually goes on, the less appealing what actually goes on is to the people. Because they know everything.
Can you imagine Jade Cargill, a rookie in the business? Red Velvet, I don't know what she's done in independent wrestling, but relatively new to a national audience.
Just drop them in any territory in the country 30 years ago and watch them look around with horrified looks on their faces like, what's going on here?
But they're pretty new. Can you imagine the idea that Brandy Rhodes is the one sitting down with them to talk to them about how to behave and what to do? Do they even realize that she has no wrestling background whatsoever other than she married Dusty's son? That's it. She was a ring announcer.
No, that's what I'm saying. To these people that get in the business now, they don't think they're wrestlers. They think they're actors and entertainers, and they automatically think that anybody. And I got news for you, folks. This isn't limited to modern wrestling. There have been people in positions in the wrestling business that they were totally unsuited for 100 years, and generally it's because of who they're related to, or whether they're an owner of a piece of something or not. But these people in the business now, they think, okay, anybody in a position over me must either know more than I do or be an expert. And I mean, that means that all the writers in the WWE must be experts because they're telling the wrestlers what to say. And the wrestlers welcome that because they don't know how to say shit on their own. So they don't understand that these people don't know what to fucking do it either. And the more they do what these people tell them to do, the happier their employer may be with them, but the less they get over to the general wrestling fan population. Anyway, yeah, and that's when I saw Brandy sitting down with any wrestlers. It's not your place. You're not, the booker handles internal conflicts one way or another, good or bad. That's how it takes place. You don't send the wife of one of the EVPs over because they're all girls.
And not to disagree with your overall premise and the problems you have with the idea that they're exposing the business in this way, not to excuse that. But it would be one thing if it was Cody talking to a Lee Johnson or a Pillman Jr. or some young babyface. Ricky fucking Starks, the most arrogant guy that comes out there and acts all arrogant. We have to see him all weak and scared talking to Cody? Come on, what's the point of this?
Oh yeah, that was another good one. Yeah, the Starks is everybody is. They act like, number one, people don't want wrestlers to be real people, for fuck's sake. You can see real people all around you. They don't want their stars or their heroes or the villains or anybody to have all these problems that they've got with a crisis of confidence. And oh, I'm so anxious and I'm going to have a panic attack and I'm unsure of myself. What the fuck? Everybody's wishy-washy fucking pussies these days. And like when Jeff Hardy sees Brock Lesnar walk up to him in the promo, and apparently since Brock's beating the shit out of Roman Reigns, probably he's not mad at Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy's not got anything to do with him, but Jeff instead, hey, Brock, how you doing? Hey, Jeff, let me take this one. Jeff just goes, oh, shit, I'll just leave. But the problem is, especially with a lot of the AEW, well, I shouldn't say AEW, a lot of both companies' wrestlers, they're really all fucking panicked and anxious and fucking got their issues and their panties are in a bunch and their nerves are shot. Fuck. And I guess mine would be too if I was trying to recite lines somebody else had written for me and do stupid things that somebody else told me to do that I would never do if it was up to me. Maybe I would be, but there's a bunch of fucking nervous Nellies and basket cases around this whole fucking company, and all they want to do is talk about how we put this show on and we all work together and there's no conflict here. Nobody's going to get an actual real fight at a wrestling match. You know what? I just revealed the reason why that 10 million people used to watch this shit on Monday nights and now 2 million do. It's because they don't want anybody to think somebody's going to get in a real fight at a wrestling match. That's why there's nobody watching, because they don't think anybody's going to get in a real fight. Have we finished this program yet?
Roads to the top we have finished, not the experience.
Yes. I'm talking about if we finished talking about this rotten, crummy television program.
I am going to watch it next week. I can't lie to you. I want to see, does Brandy get a hangnail? Does Cody have some kind of crazy adventure where he has to lend his life advice to someone to help them out?
I don't know. I think next week is when he gets spontaneous diarrhea.
I want to see if the Bucks and Omega. I want to see if we see the Bucks and Omega for a second on this show. That's what I want to see.
You know what? Let's dare everybody. If you are going to watch this, at least make something constructive out of it, and let's see if we ever do get a glimpse of either the Hardly Boys or Twinkle Toes even in the background on this program. Let's just see how long it takes and if it ever happens.
Hey, one last question about this. But the first episode obviously didn't tear down the house in terms of numbers. and it's been replayed nonstop or several times at least, usually the first week for a show like this, the number will be better than week 2, week 3. Of course, it could always build an audience, and who knows, recover by week 5, but how long does TNT let this run? I mean, I gotta think people are going to be tuning out in droves.
What are the numbers on their other programs? Because
that's a good question.
We found out, they were happy with 800,000 people on fucking Wednesday night. So, is it gotten so bad now that they're happy with 400,000 people watching a nationally televised cable program? We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
And by the way, for a lot of people say, well, you don't understand. Get with the times, Cornette. It's the modern days. People watch streaming and people watch this and people watch that. It's not just the TV show. Well, that must mean that the ratings for basketball and football and baseball and everything else are 20% of what they were 25 years ago. As I just mentioned, we've lost 8 million of the 10 million people watching wrestling on Mondays. So all those other sports have gone to a fifth of their previous audience also, right? Right?
Audiences across the board are down from what they were years ago because of how many channels and how many options there are, but I don't think anyone has had the percentage of drop that professional wrestling has.
So it's not that football is now being watched by 20% of the people, or baseball or basketball is just wrestling.
Again, I don't have numbers in front of me, but that's what I would think.
Well, there you go. Well, see? See
what?
Oh, I don't know. see, Ryder. Oh, see what you have done. You know what? I'll tell you what that Brandy, with her giant bulbous belly, should have done while she was pregnant. She should have ate a better breakfast every morning, and she wouldn't have been nauseated, and she wouldn't have been sick, and she wouldn't have had to talk about that, and she wouldn't have had to talk about how far her hoo-ha was going to spread out, because she would be feeling good and looking good because she'd be eating a healthy breakfast, courtesy of the folks at Magic Spoon. No trashy, sugar-ridden, carb-ridden cereal and junk. No, it tastes as good as the junk, but it's healthy for you because it's only got 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, only 140 calories a serving. Keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb. If you want something that's friendly and free, well, it's friendly, but it's not free. You got to pay for it, but it's free of all those glutens and grains and soys. And right now you can build your own custom bundle from the different flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. And by the way, the cookies and cream and maple waffle were brought back. They were originally set out for a limited time only, sold out just like Cornette's collectibles. So now they're back forever, and they're delicious and indulgent. You got to try those. Anyway, if you go to magicspoon.com/Jim to grab your custom bundle, use the promo code Jim at checkout. You'll save $5 off the order. It's backed with the 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. They may ask you, did you watch Rhodes to the Top? And if you say yes, they may not give you your money back because that might be what made you ill. But nevertheless, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 off at checkout. Boy, howdy, are these delicious cereals, but yet good for you. And they do not leave a nasty taste in your mouth like the Rhodes family reality programming.
You know, I actually thought that her nausea may have been caused by Cody's neck tattoo and seeing that every morning first thing.
Boy, I'll tell you, you know, that may be something. Can you imagine you turn over and all of a sudden it looks like a test pattern from a fucking a TV station on Pluto?
Why weren't they filming for that? That's what I wanted to see. You want to get me interested in the show? Show me Brandy Rhodes' reaction when Cody walked in with that tattoo.
Yes. There you see, they missed a golden opportunity. They probably weren't shooting then.
Show me Brandy and Cody in the back when Cody's dog, who he was pretending was a service animal, got spooked by the fireworks. That's what I want to see. Why wasn't that on camera?